This is Learn It from an 80s Song. Today, we have a very inspiring guest. Please welcome Shellee Dyne. She is a philanthropist with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and is the mother of Jake Dyne, who was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at the very young age of 14 months. Cystic fibrosis is a progressive genetic disease that causes persistent lung infections and limits the ability to breathe over time. Within just weeks of his diagnosis, Shellee started Jake's Ladder with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And in that one event, she raised $40,000. Now the rest is history. She has raised over $2 million in the last 17 years by having annual fundraisers. To learn more about cystic fibrosis, go to cff.org. Also, to donate to cystic fibrosis, go to cff.org. Welcome, Shellee. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I miss seeing you, I have to say. Shellee and I have boys that are in school together, and obviously our school has been, social distanced and, studying from home. And I've just missed crossing paths with you and getting to see you for our mom's night out. And
absolutely. I miss it too. The social connection.
Absolutely. I heard a phrase the other day on a podcast, that you coined the term social recession. We're in a social recession.
We are in a social recession.
Absolutely. And so I love the fact that I can have a podcast where I can reach out to my friends that I'm inspired by. And Shellee, you are definitely one of those. And I can't wait for the audience to hear your story today. But really just thank you for being here. And it's so great to see you.
Well, thank you. Thanks again for having me, Patricia. Happy to be here.
Happy New Year. First of all, it's 2021 yes. and we're still in January, and I can't believe how fast January is passing us by.
Yes.
It's crazy. But this is the part of the show where we do the big reveal as to what song Shellee is going to be talking about today. So here is the big reveal. Can I get a drum roll, please? Shellee, what is the 80s song that best resonates with the story you're going to tell us today?
So my favorite song that resonates with me, my favorite 80s song is Don't Stop Believing from Journey.
Yes.
So that song really resonates with me because no matter what happens in our lives, I really do believe that you can never stop believing in hope and faith and strength, and whatever, your challenge might be at that moment in time is you can't give up and you can't stop believing.
And I love that you're bringing this up during this time right now. And I think all of us in the United States, we just have to dial into hope and kindness, and I love that you're bringing in the song because, and that's the truth. It's like, we can't control everything that's going on right now, but what we can control is, those interactions that we have throughout the day, those friends that we reach out to, those positive messages that we send out for hope. And, as we know, kindness, and I talk about all the time, kindness is contagious. There is a trickle effect, that a ripple effect, I should say, regarding kindness. And I feel that hope is right there with it,
Absolutely.
And I love that you brought that in today, Shellee. And I hear something interesting. So the Journey song that you're talking about, Don't Stop Believing,
Mhm.
Actually, it came out in 1981, and I actually remember it coming out because I have an older brother, and he had gotten the 45. And it was, I remember hearing that song over and over again because he listened to
Right.
it over and over again. You put the record player, you
Right.
put it back on, and
Yes.
then it goes and you put it back on again because it's a 45, which for those of you who are listening that are not a Gen Xer, a 45 is a record. Okay, let's just be clear. And it's a small record. And you have to put a little spacer on your record player in order to play it, but it's one song. So, with nowadays, we just click a button, we get to just program it to be on repeat. Back
Unbelievable.
then, we actually had to walk over to the record player, pick up the thing, and then bring it right back down again.
Right. Yes.
So, dedication. But what's so interesting is that song became popular and was a Billboard hit again in 2010 because of the Glee. Glee covered it. So
So
it's so
crazy.
interesting that that song really is an anthem for so
Yes.
many. And it is an anthem for you. And I can't wait to hear your story. So, Shellee, why don't we go ahead and dive right into your story?
Sure. Okay, so basically, my story is my son. I have an 18-year-old son and I have a 15-year-old son. My 18-year-old son at 14 months was having a lot of stomach issues and digestive issues and having uh, coughing, and we kept taking him back to the doctor and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him until finally at 14 months his doctor said, I think he's not thriving right now. He's not gaining weight. So I really think it's either cystic fibrosis or celiac. So being a first time mom, I had no idea what either one of those were. And I really wasn't overly concerned because I didn't have any idea what they were. So she sent me off to a gastroenterologist who does all the testing, and Jake had blood work. Um, so since we are Ashkenazi Jews, it's common to do the blood work versus doing the salt test. And he had the blood work done. Unfortunately, the celiac test came back first, and the doctor said, I'm really sorry to tell you he doesn't have celiac. So my guess is that he has cystic fibrosis. We still need to wait for the test, but most likely he has cystic fibrosis. So again, I wasn't, up to par onto every, all the information about it. So I went back and I did a little research and realized, what it was. So when he did finally call me it must have been weeks later, to let me know that he had cystic fibrosis. Of course, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. It's my first child. I'm young, I'm a young mom. I've, no idea what's going on. Hard enough to just take care of a 14-month-old without anything wrong with them. And, I was obviously extremely devastated. And I had to go see a doctor at Children's Hospital. I had to see my pediatrician, and I had to make all the rounds. And at the time, they don't really know how severe it's going to be until they start living their life to see, is it a severe case? So they don't really know. They can kind of tell from their mutation, but not 100%. And every kid is different. So it's not a one size fit all approach. So the one doctor really made it like a death sentence and really said, Jake, this is a very serious disease. And, the median age for survival is, at the time, it was 37. And you can imagine what this does to you. So I was just devastated. And I got a call. Actually, I think it was my sister in law told me that there was a woman in Beverly Hills and her daughter has cystic fibrosis and she does fundraisers, and maybe I should give her a call. So I honestly can't remember if I called her, she called me, but she said, listen, there are no fundraisers for cystic fibrosis in the Valley, only in the city. You really should think about doing a fundraiser. So I knew nothing about fundraising. My parents really weren't overly philanthropic when I was growing up. They were living paycheck to paycheck, working, their tails off. And I just didn't come from that. And so I didn't really know a lot about fundraising. So I immediately called the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and I got my resources around me, my friends, my family, and then I decided to have a brunch at my house. I think I literally put it together in 2 days. My friends,
Wow.
were devastated, and they all could relate because they were all young moms, and they thought, you know what, this could have happened to me. So what
Mhm.
happened was my husband and I were both carriers of CF, but we had no idea we were carriers. And since I was 29 when I had Jake, um, there was a standard of care, which was a panel of tests for Ashkenazi Jews, but I didn't even know that existed. So the standard of care was about 50%. So 50% of the doctors are giving it to patients and saying, oh, wait a minute here, here is a panel test. Maybe you should get tested for these different diseases. But I always think in retrospect, it was meant to be that I never had that test because I would have never had Jake then. So, anyhow, to make a long story short, I had the fundraiser. I raised $30,000 in one day.
Wow.
And from that point on, I started having fundraisers. But instead of having brunches at my house, I had these huge galas where we would raise $200,000 to $300,000 a year. I'd have them at the Squirrel Ball. We'd have silent auctions, live auction. We would do a whole huge gala, and everybody really looked forward to it. So, and it was my way of dealing with
Mhm.
Jake's disease. And
Mhm.
as he got older, um, I realized that with any disease, and not with any disease, but with most diseases, it's about prevention. We never missed a breathing treatment. So Jake takes over, 30, 40 pills a day. He does at least 2 breathing treatments when he's healthy a day, which take about 30 to 40 minutes each treatment. When he's sick, it could be every 4 hours. But we've never missed a treatment. And most kids with cystic fibrosis are hospitalized about once a year for they call a tune-up, which you go on IV antibiotics to kind of give your lungs a boost with IV antibiotics. And he was not hospitalized until I think he was like 15 for the first time.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
doctors and nurses were shocked that that was his first time in the hospital. So, I'd say the last 4 years have been the most challenging because cystic fibrosis is a progressive disease.
Mhm.
Um, but I still refuse to let CF control him. And we moved to UCLA a couple years ago for his care. And the doctor said to him, you don't let CF control you. You control CF. And
Wow.
that's what you have to do.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So what to date, how much have you raised your foundation? Tell me
So
again.
we've raised over $2 million for the Cystic
That
Fibrosis Foundation.
that's incredible. That's
So
incredible.
yeah, so there's a new drug that came out. I believe it was last year or the year before. It's called Trikafta, and it's basically a huge. It's not a cure, but it's really extended the lives of most people with cystic fibrosis. Unfortunately, for Jake's mutation, he has a nonsense mutation, and it does not help him at all. So he cannot take Trikafta. So last year, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation said, we will not give up until every single person has an extension for their life or a cure. And their whole
Love
motto
that.
now is until it's done. And
Wow.
they had a
Love
huge
that.
fundraiser, and I think they raised $1 million specifically for nonsense rare mutations. Because unfortunately, there's not a lot of drugs in the pipeline right now for nonsense mutations. And we're trying to raise money for research for specifically nonsense mutations. So,
Isn't that amazing? What an
yes.
incredible foundation.
Yeah, they're amazing and they're incredible to work with. Incredible.
So great, Shellee. I mean, and all of the moms out there, who are listening, I mean, we've raised toddlers and we know how challenging that is, but then on top of that, to be able to learn this news and like you had said, you were devastated, and to get up every single day and put on that mom hat and and fight, fight the fight. And Shellee, I feel like that you're doing that on a global level. Not only are you fighting for your son at home, but you are fighting for the entire cause. You're fighting for that one drug, for
Mhm.
all, and that research for that one drug that's going to help that mutation.
Mhm.
It's incredible what you're doing.
And there was one year, I think it was, well, it was about 6 years ago. So my husband had colon cancer 6 years ago, and it was stage 3. And he had to have surgery and had to have chemo for 6 months. And it was one of the most difficult times in my life. And I was in the market and I ran into somebody and she's like, "Oh, are you having Jake's ladder this year?" And I said, "I really don't know. Larry's going through a really hard time with chemo and I just have a lot going on. And I honestly don't know if I'm up to it." And she's like, "Well, what do you mean? How can you not have Jake's ladder?" And at that moment in time, I realized and I thought, you know what? She's right. How do I not have Jake's ladder? And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And it wasn't even a close friend of mine. It was an acquaintance who looked forward to it every year. And I just said, I have to have it. So, I did that. And,
And
from
that's
that
when you
point
started the
on,
walks. Is that when you started the walks,
no,
right?
I actually started the walks when I went back to work full time
Okay.
because I didn't have the time to put together a gala.
So you had
So
a gala that year. That's
no, that
the
year I didn't. No, I haven't had galas probably for about 8 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did the walk. I've done all your walks
Yeah.
except for the
So,
one that I ended up with I ended up with a stomach bug. And I
oh
was
yes, yes. Oh my gosh.
and I was going to help warm up her audience and I mean all the walkers and I ended up with the stomach flu.
That's
So
right. Oh
that
my
was
gosh, that's
terrible.
right.
I kept willing myself to get better. I was like, "You're not
Yes.
sick. You're not."
Yes.
I was so sick. But I absolutely love the walk. I do it, guys, every year, and it's incredible. I think what I love the most about it. It really feels like the entire community of Calabasas is there, honestly, and then the
Yeah.
outskirts as well of the valley,
Yes. Yes.
and your whole family is there. And
Yes.
Jake speaks, and you speak, and your husband speaks, and I see hope. When I look at you guys and I see you up there, on the stage, talking about how much you raised and the good that you're doing.
Mhm.
And guys, this is on top of just the day in and day out of Shellee had mentioned all the treatments that he does per day
Mhm.
and the breathing treatments that he's never missed one.
Mhm.
And that's I mean, sometimes it's hard to get breakfast on the table, right? But
Mhm.
imagine, having then to also monitor, how much the medications and the breathing and just the day and daily routine.
Yes, absolutely.
Incredible. Incredible. So, Shellee, I love this part where we talk about the strengths you gained during this time, or
Mhm.
really it's about the strengths that you have as a character, as your person, as you as a human being. What strengths do you use on an ongoing basis now? And what strengths did you use during that time, especially early on? I mean, when you just got that diagnosis, you're devastated, and through your husband's colon cancer, like, how did you keep going? Tell us about your
Um,
strengths.
so what's interesting about this song too, I have to say, is that I was a small town girl. So I grew up in a very small town and I moved the middle of my freshman year in high school to Arizona, to Scottsdale. And it was very, very difficult to start in the middle of a freshman year in high school. So I'd have to say right now, and my strengths on a daily basis are routine, which I know it doesn't really sound like a strength, but routine really helps me motivate and get through
Hmm.
my day.
Hmm.
Um, I have come to realize too, only I'd say, recently, is gratitude, because I think when you
Yes.
have gratitude, um, your whole world opens up. So, even if you're having a really hard day, let's say you have 5 zillion dishes to do, or you have a lot of housework to do, instead of saying, oh my God, I have all this to do, if you change your perspective and you say, oh my God, thank God I have a house to do dishes. Thank God I have clothes to do laundry. And you change your perspective on things, I think that makes a really big difference. So instead of getting
100%.
down about Jake's health, I'm grateful that he has amazing doctors. I'm grateful that we are able to afford his medical care. So it's definitely changing your perspective. I think I grew up with a very independent mother. She was very career driven and always made a living. Very smart. She's a very smart woman. My mom my mom has a master's degree. She was a teacher, guidance counselor. Then she decided she wanted to become a CPA, but didn't end up doing that. But my point is, she always knew she had to make her own money, because I think as a woman, it's really important. We don't know what tomorrow's ever going to bring.
Yep.
And she really instilled that in me, is that you have to know, you have to be independent as a woman, and you have
Hmm.
to be able to make your own money. Um,
Hmm.
so I think,
She's,
tenacity and strength and independence,
yes.
gratitude. And I definitely think family roots are important. We try to have Friday night dinners, because I think that's one way of coming together as a family and really reflecting. It can be any night of the week, but just being, family oriented. We're all moving in different directions all the time, and just sitting down and reflecting without phones, without anything, and just having a nice dinner together.
So nice. And I understand you haven't seen your family in quite some time, and that must be challenging. Your parents are on the East Coast.
Yeah, so they're in Maine, and I usually, when pre-COVID, we used to see each other probably every few months. They're half the year in Maine,
Hmm.
half the year in Arizona, and now I haven't seen them in over a year. I haven't seen my sister in over a year, and it's very difficult.
Yes.
So, but we Zoom.
You do
Um,
your Shabbats on
we do our
Friday.
Shabbats on every Friday. We even with the time change, we try and meet, which
That's
it makes a
great.
world of difference. So, yeah,
Wow. Love that. Love that. And that's part of your routine. The
yes,
Friday,
yes.
another part of, and then bringing the family roots together.
Yes.
Um, and all the strengths that you're mentioning, I can totally see that in you. And with the VIA strengths, character strengths assessment, that I've been studying with Dr. Nemec, I'm now, trained to spot strengths.
Right.
And I've been really trying to exercise my spot strengths as spotting strengths. And the two that I really spot in you are perseverance,
Mhm.
100%, and hope, that
Mhm.
positivity, and,
Mhm.
expecting the best for the future and working to achieve it.
Mhm.
And then as far as perseverance, there's science behind it. And I'm getting this from Dr. Nemec's book right here, which is Character Strengths Interventions. And this is for strengths based coaches like myself. And, the research, I love to look at the research behind things. And with perseverance, what's interesting is the effort for a task and duration to keep going with that task. That's like a key, and that's you to a T. It's like every task that you've started, and for you it's been caring for your son, right? And caring for your family, but you take it to a whole nother level. He never misses a treatment. You're always on top of it. And then you take it to a global level where are raising money and
Mhm.
really making a difference. And that tenacity, that the perseverance, And then studies show that with this particular strength, perseverance, it's connected to success. And for you as a philanthropist, for
Mhm.
you as a career driven woman, independent woman, for you as a family, like you are so family oriented, and I see that in you, and you're as dedicated to your family as you are to that philanthropy, as you are to that your daily work with your clients.
Mhm.
And it's amazing to see, and certainly hope, like hope speaks so, even the song you chose,
Right.
it's there. And 100% on gratitude, I see that one now that you mentioned it as well. And just the fact that you practice that and exercise that strength,
Mhm.
for me, that's how I start my day, is with
Mhm.
gratitude, because it does shift the brain. And
Mhm.
there's a lot that we could be down about right now. There's a lot that we could be irritated by and upset about. But like you said, it's like I get to do this. I have a home, like you had said. For me, it's same thing. It's like when the dishes pile up, or when I got to make another lunch, kids, or a good God, yeah, it's never
Seriously.
ending, right?
Never ending. Never
you know,
ending.
I got to practice that gratitude on a daily basis.
It is never ending. When one meal ends, another meal starts.
Yes, yes, exactly. It just doesn't stop. Um, so honestly, I respect you so much,
Thank you.
and you really are an inspiration to so many. And
Thank you.
just wow. I've always been wowed by you and what you've done, and I really appreciate you sharing, everything that you did today.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah. And so how do people, donate it? I know we donated, my husband and I donated this year, and he gets a corporate match,
That's
which is
awesome. Thank you
exciting.
so much
So
again, Patricia. That's
of
incredible.
course,
Thank you.
but I would encourage, if you do work for a corporation, you get that corporate match, make sure to utilize that. Um, but how, Shellee, do they donate to your foundation, Jake's Ladder?
So there's a link. I sent out an email,
Mhm.
and there's a link that people can donate to. It goes
Great,
directly to the Nonsense Mutation Fund through the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation,
great.
and they distribute them. So they, I'm sure, Patricia, I can email you the link again, or however you want me to do it.
Yes. Well, it'll definitely be in the show notes for people
Sure.
to sign on, and going to that cystic fibrosis website
Yes, it goes
is
directly to the website. It's directed to
mhm,
the website, and then it's for the Nonsense Mutation Fund, which is Jake's Ladder. Um,
great.
and it's great because it doesn't go to just a blanket for cystic fibrosis. It's going to go directly towards people with the nonsense rare mutations, which there
Wow.
isn't a lot of research on right now. So,
And I learned so much. I did not realize that there were such things as the different mutations within cystic fibrosis. That's so interesting.
yes, yes.
Really
So it was
interesting.
bittersweet when the Trikafta drug came out for the other people with cystic fibrosis and how well they were doing. And you want to be happy for them, and you are. But on the other hand, you're sad too because you want that for your own child.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And it's great that you're leading that cause. And it's
Yes,
so great. Jake's Ladder team, make sure that you go in there to the foundation. The link will be in the show notes. Let's all donate, no matter what. Every little bit counts. Um,
absolutely. Every little bit counts.
every little bit counts.
Yes.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about 2020 for you, and now that we were in 2021, and trying to keep a hold of that hope in 2021. Just hang on, guys. Let's
Yeah.
just be hopeful. Um, what was 2021 like for you? What did you do? I know you're, for those of you that don't know, Shellee is a nutritionist. She helps people, right now remotely via Zoom. And so I know you have I've worked with Shellee. She's amazing. If you ever
Thank you,
need
Patricia. Thank
help,
you.
she really, what I like about how you individualize a meal plan for me, and how it fit into my lifestyle. And I had a really busy time when I saw you, and I was like, how am I going to eat?
Right.
you know, how does
How do
this?
you fit that in?
How do I fit the food thing in? So, and my issue was not eating enough oftentimes, and then eating too much when I did eat. And, so I know you've got a very, busy clientele,
Right.
and would love to hear how your practice is going. And then also any action items, given that we've come from 2020 and we're moving into 2021. A lot of us have some New Year's resolutions. So give us a
Yeah,
little
so
information on that.
I love to work with all different types of clients. I have clients that are very, very overweight. They have high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So I gear their food plan towards that and to reduce, their blood pressure, cholesterol, et cetera. Type 2 diabetics, I have, teenagers or people who just don't know how to eat, who have no idea how to feed their families. Um, so I really like to tackle all different types of clients and like you said, really individualize each program for the type of issue that they have or type of challenge that they have. So I have, I also sell a lot of supplements. Supplements are really, really important. I think that supplement, especially now with how they've shown with vitamin D, and 80% of patients that are in the hospital right now with COVID are vitamin D deficient. So vitamin D is extremely important, and good quality vitamins, zinc, B12, some multivitamins. So there's all different types of vitamins. I really do believe in, and I always have believed in, good quality vitamins that do make a difference. And I look at vitamins like insurance. So it's insurance for gaps in our diets, that we can't always get the proper nutrients from foods because we can't have a perfect
Yes.
diet all the time. So that's my
Yes.
take on vitamins. So in terms of nutrition and going forward for 2021, and my whole philosophy on nutrition is eat less processed foods. So eat more real foods, I call them. So fruits, things that don't have a food label. Fruits, vegetables do not have food labels. Um,
Yes.
Try to eat organic chicken, but small amounts. You don't want to eat a
Mhm.
whole, huge piece of chicken. So you want to eat majority of your foods as, vegetables, and mostly organic vegetables, organic fruits, nuts, seeds, legumes, healthy fats, things like
Mhm.
that. And you want to eat more real foods.
Yes.
I know I keep saying that, but it really,
Yeah.
um, so especially now, and drinking enough water. So people
Hmm.
are usually dehydrated and they're drinking soda and they're drinking more alcohol, and all of those things play havoc on our immune systems even. So to help fight off not only COVID, but other viruses and, bacteria infections, et cetera, et cetera. So those things are really
Yes.
important. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier, is prevention is
Mhm.
key to longevity.
Yes.
So we want to do everything we can to prevent any type of disease. So, and I really truly believe that food is medicine.
That's great. That's great. I love that. And what other action items for our audience, if there were three things that you would be like, this is what you should be focusing on in
Mhm.
2021. It sounds like number one is just eating that real food, eating things that don't
Absolutely.
have a label. That's number one. And
Exactly.
drinking
Number
water.
Water would be number two. And I would say number three is sleep. So try to get good quality sleep, 7 to 8 hours a night. Because if you don't get good quality sleep and we're sleep deprived, that affects hunger hormones, it affects cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone levels. It affects so many different things in our bodies. Sleep is super, super underrated, and it makes a big difference on weight loss. It makes a big difference on health.
Absolutely. I love that you talked about sleep. That has been something that I've been really focused on for 2020. And I even have like an Aura ring that measures my sleep at night, like
Oh,
how
I
did I
love that.
sleep? And in your HRV, so you know, so I know like how hard I can work out the next day.
Sure,
Should
sure,
I be
sure, sure.
taking a recovery day, or should
Mhm.
I be, so um, I've noticed such a difference. Like you had said, on nights that I had the worst sleep, all I wanted was to eat just junk,
Junk.
like just
Absolutely.
God. And then it made me feel even worse, right?
Absolutely.
And on
Yeah.
the days I do
Cycle.
get sleep, it's like, oh gosh, I feel great, and
Yes.
it is amazing the difference
Mhm.
that sleep makes. It's
Huge difference. And
well, I
oh, I will have to
appreciate
say, I
that.
have to add one. I know you said three
Sure.
things, but
Well, you got
we
four.
have to say exercise. Exercise, Patricia.
Yes. Yes.
Exercise is so important.
Absolutely. Exercise, for me, I teach fitness. I've continued to teach fitness through this pandemic via
It's incredible
Zoom
you
at
do that.
first.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. And then now I'm on Recess, is a new platform. It's called
Oh,
Recess. It's called
oh,
myrecess.com. And that's been fun. So absolutely getting the movement in. I think the CDC recommends 150 minutes of exercise per week.
yes, yes.
So
And
get
find
out for a
something you
walk.
love. That way you'll stick with it.
100%, Shellee. That's great. Yes, find something you enjoy doing. It
Mhm.
shouldn't feel like,
No.
oh, dread,
Yes,
find something
exactly.
that you can get excited about. And
Yes.
studies also show that when you work out with someone.
Mhm,
So, whether even online, when you work out
mhm,
with people, you're
mhm,
going to get more happy hormones. You're going to get more
mhm.
positive hormones. Therefore, you will then want to work out more. So, it's this
Yes,
sick cycle,
yes,
and I think, especially for those that are just starting out in a workout routine, having an
yes,
accountability partner, doing
absolutely.
something you love, like Shellee
Mhm.
says, and then really, working out, finding someone to work out with, I think
Yes.
it would be really
And it
beneficial.
doesn't have to be long. It can just be 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. A lot of people think that they need to hit the gym for hours, and it's not true. It
mhm,
can all be done in a short amount of time.
mhm,
So,
absolutely.
absolutely. And also, something else for those that are Zooming all day long,
Oh,
you can even get those 30 minutes in 10-minute increments. So let's say you've got a break in between meetings. It's about 30 minutes. You can put your sneakers on, go out for a walk for 10 minutes, come back, be ready for your
mhm,
next meeting. So even
absolutely.
that counts. People think that it doesn't count, but it does. It
Mhm.
really does.
Yes, and clears your
So
head.
absolutely, sitting is the new smoking. So we got to get up.
Yes. Yeah, being sedentary.
We could go on and on, Shellee. Actually, we should come back on, and we need to have episode just on this. But I really wanted the emphasis to be on, cystic fibrosis today. But I'd love to have you back on so we can talk more about these things, especially during this time.
Oh,
I'd love to have you
yes.
back very soon.
Yes.
Can we talk about 80s trends before you leave?
Yes.
So this is an 80s flavored podcast that we love to pick out a theme song, but what's really interesting is to talk about favorite 80s trends. Did you have favorite 80s trends?
Oh my gosh. I remember in high school, I worked at Wet Seal and I had these lace, they were biker shorts with lace on the bottom. Oh
Oh,
my, with cowboy boots.
oh
I
my
mean, I
gosh.
can't even imagine that look. And
That
I thought I was the coolest thing ever.
you are, Shellee, and I can imagine you'd look great in a paper bag.
No. Oh my gosh. Embarrassing. I can't believe I even just said that. Oh,
Oh, that's
mhm.
awesome. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, you were trending, a wet seal that was kind of like a hot topics, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so cool. And
Oh my
favorite
God.
shows.
Favorite shows. Well, Three's Company was great. I love
Yes.
Three's Company.
Loved Three's Company.
Um, The Love Boat.
Yes.
The Love Boat was
Yes.
great.
So great. Uh,
Um, what else? Oh, Charlie's Angels was
oh
incredible.
God,
That
yeah.
was my
Loved
favorite
it.
show. Every day
I
after school, I
mean,
had to watch Charlie's Angels.
Magnum PI was
Oh,
another one for me.
yes.
I was
Yes.
so into Tom Selleck and yeah, and Hawaii, the whole 9 yards,
Oh, yeah.
I
There
and
were a lot of good shows.
there were so many good shows. And what's so funny about Three's Company is that that was seriously my favorite show. And um, we had a black and white television. We didn't even have a color television,
Right.
and I wasn't allowed to watch it. So because they were living in
So
sin.
inappropriate
It
too.
was so inappropriate. Yeah, they weren't married, all these people living together, but I couldn't get enough of it because, and I think especially growing up Catholic, when they say don't do this, it's like you
Of course
can't
you could
help. It's
do
like a
it.
magnet. It's like
Yeah.
what is it? What is it? A moth to a flame or whatever it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It's like fly to fly paper, whatever. I had to go. I had to watch it, and I would sneak downstairs, and I would like turn the volume just low enough that I
Right.
could hear it,
Right.
and I had to watch it and try to, and I would laugh, and I would have to like tone down my laughter. Such a good show.
It was a
Such a
great
good show.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, honestly, you picked such great music choice. I love Journey, and I certainly Don't Stop Believin' is such a great anthem, especially for the incredible work that you do. And once again, guys, check out the show notes so you can get to that link to learn more about cystic fibrosis and to donate, especially to that specific mutation that doesn't have a drug for it yet.
Thanks, Patricia. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for being here. And I can't wait to see you and get to give you a hug one day, maybe someday in 2021.
I know, me too. And go out again.
And go out again. Well, great to see you.
You too, Patricia. Thank you.